the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Sabha Parva. Section 71, Dutta Parva continued. Karna said, of all the persons in the assembly, three, viz., Bhishma, Vidura, and the preceptor of the Kurus, Drona, appear to be independent, for they always speak of their master as wicked, always censure him, and never wish for his prosperity. O excellent one, the slave, the son, and the wife are always dependent. They cannot earn wealth, for whatever they earn belongeth to their master. Thou art the wife of a slave incapable of possessing anything on his own account. Repair now to the inner apartments of King Dhritarashtra and serve the king's relatives. We direct that is now thy proper business. And, O princess, all the sons of Dhritarashtra and not the sons of Pritha are now thy masters. O handsome one, select thou another husband now, one who will not make thee a slave by gambling. It is well known that women, especially that are slaves, are not censurable if they proceed with freedom in electing husbands. Therefore let it be done by thee. Nakula hath been won, as also Bhimsena, and Yudhishthira also, and Sahdeva, and Arjuna. And, O Yajnasni, thou art now a slave. Thy husbands that are slaves cannot continue to be thy lords any longer. Alas, doth not the son of Pritha regard life, prowess and manhood as of no use that he offereth this daughter of Drupda, the king of Panchala, in the presence of all this assembly, as a stake at dice. Vasampayana continued, hearing these words, the wrathful Bhima breathed hard, a very picture of woe. Obedient to the king and bound by the tie of virtue and duty, burning everything with his eyes inflamed by anger, he said, O king, I cannot be angry at these words of this son of a Sutha, for we have truly entered the state of servitude. But O king, could our enemies have said so unto me, if thou hadst not played staking this princess? Vasampayana continued, hearing these words of Bhimsena, King Duryodhana addressed Yudhishthira who was silent and deprived of his senses, saying, O king, both Bhima and Arjuna, and the twins also, are under thy sway. Answer thou the question that hath been asked by Draupadi. Say, whether thou regardest Krishna as unborn. And having spoken thus unto the son of Kunti, Duryodhana, desirous of encouraging the son of Radha and insulting Bhima, quickly uncovered his left thigh that was like unto the stem of a plantain tree or the trunk of an elephant, and which was graced with every auspicious sign and endued with the strength of thunder, and showed it to Draupadi in her very sight, and beholding this, Bhimsena expanding his red eyes, said unto Duryodhana in the midst of all those kings and as if piercing them, with his dart-like words, let not Vrikodra attain to the regions obtained by his ancestors, if he doth not break that thigh of thine in the great conflict. And sparkles of fire began to be emitted from every organ of sense of Bhima filled with wrath, like those that come out of every crack and orifice in the body of a blazing tree. Vidura then, addressing everybody, said, Ye kings of Pratipa's race, behold the great danger that ariseth from Bhimsena. Know ye for certain that this great calamity that threateneth to overtake the Bharatas hath been sent by destiny itself. The sons of Dhritarashtra have, indeed, gambled disregarding every proper consideration. They are even now disputing in this assembly about a lady, of the royal household. The prosperity of your kingdom is at an end. Alas, The Kauravas are even now engaged in sinful consultations. Ye Kauravas, take to your heart this high precept that I declare. If virtue is persecuted, the whole assembly becometh polluted. If Yudhishthira had staked her before he was himself won, he would certainly have been regarded as her master. If, however, a person staketh anything at a time when he himself is incapable of holding any wealth, to win it is very like obtaining wealth in a dream. Listening to the words of the king of Gandhara, fall ye not off from this undoubted truth. Duryodhan, hearing Vidura thus speak, said, I am willing to abide by the words of Bhima, of Arjuna and of the twins. Let them say that Yudhishthira is not their master. Yajnasni will then be freed from her state of bondage. Arjuna at this, said, this illustrious son of Kunti, King Yudhishthira the Just, was certainly our master before he began to play. But having lost himself, let all the Kauravas judge whose master he could be after that. Vasampayana continued, just then, a jackal began to cry loudly in the Homa chamber of King Dhritarashtra's palace. And, O king, unto the jackal that howled so, the asses began to bray responsively. And terrible birds also, from all sides, began to answer with their cries. And Vidura, conversant with everything, and the daughter of Suvala, both understood the meaning of those terrible sounds. And Bhishma and Drona and the learned Gautama loudly cried, Swasti! Swasti! Then Gandhari and the learned Vidura, beholding that frightful omen, represented everything in great affliction, unto the king. And the king, Dhritarashtra, thereupon said, Thou wicked-minded Duryodhan, thou wretch, destruction hath already overtaken thee when thou insultest in language such as this the wife of these bulls among the Kurus, especially their wedded wife Draupadi. And having spoken those words, the wise Dhritarashtra, endued with knowledge, reflecting with the aid of his wisdom and desirous of saving his relatives and friends from destruction, began to console Krishna, the princess of Panchala, and addressing her, the monarch said, Ask of me any boon, O princess of Panchala, that thou desirest. Chaste and devoted to virtue, thou art the first of all my daughters-in-law. Draupadi said, O bull of the Bharata race, if thou wilt grant me a boon, I ask the handsome Yudhishthira, obedient to every duty, be freed from slavery. Let not unthinking children call my child Prativindya, endued with great energy of mind as the son of a slave. Having been a prince, so superior to all men, and nurtured by kings, it is not proper that he should be called the child of a slave. Dhritarashtra said unto her, O auspicious one, let it be as thou sayest. O excellent one, ask thou another boon, for I will give it. My heart inclineth to give thee a second boon. Thou dost not deserve only one boon. Draupadi said, I ask, O king, that Bhimsena and Dhananjaya and the twins also, with their cars and bows, freed from bondage, regain their liberty. Dhritarashtra said, O blessed daughter, let it be as thou desirest. Ask thou a third boon, for thou hast not been sufficiently honored with two boons. Virtuous in thy behavior, thou art the foremost of all my daughters-in-law. Draupadi said, O best of kings, O illustrious one, covetousness always bringeth about loss of virtue. I do not deserve a third boon. Therefore I dare not ask any. O king of kings, it hath been said that a Vaisya may ask one boon, a Kshatriya lady, 2 boons, a Kshatriya male, 3, and a Brahmana, 100. O king, these my husbands, freed from the wretched state of bondage, will be able to achieve prosperity by their own virtuous acts. Thus ends the 71st section in the Dutta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 72, Dutta Parva continued. Karna said, "We have never heard of such an act as this one of Draupadi, performed by any of the women noted in this world for their beauty." When the sons of both Pandu and Dhritarashtra were excited with wrath, this Draupadi became unto the sons of Pandu as their salvation. Indeed, the princes of Panchala, becoming as a boat unto the sons of Pandu who were sinking in a boatless ocean of distress, hath brought them in safety to the shore. Vasampayana continued, hearing these words of Karna in the midst of the Kurus, viz., that the sons of Pandu were saved by their wife, the angry Bhimsena in great affliction said unto Arjuna, "O Dhananjaya, it hath been said by Devala 3 lights reside in every person, viz., offspring, acts and learning, for from these 3 hath sprung creation. When life becometh extinct and the body becometh impure and is cast off by relatives, these 3 become of service to every person. But the light that is in us hath been dimmed by this act of insult to our wife. How, O Arjuna, can a son born from this insulted wife of ours prove serviceable to us?" Arjuna replied, "Superior persons, O Bharata, never prate about the harsh words that may or may not be uttered by inferior men. Persons that have earned respect for themselves, even if they are able to retaliate, remember not the acts of hostility done by their enemies, but, on the other hand, treasure up only their good deeds." Bhima said, "Shall I, O king, slay, without loss of time all these foes assembled together, even here, or shall I destroy them, O Bharata, by the roots, outside this palace? Or, what need is there of words or of command? I shall slay all these even now, and rule thou the whole earth, O king, without a rival." And saying this, Bhima with his younger brothers, like a lion in the midst of a herd of inferior animals, repeatedly cast his angry glances around. But Arjuna, however, of white deeds, with appealing looks began to pacify his elder brother, and the mighty armed hero endued with great prowess began to burn with the fire of his wrath. And, O king, this fire began to issue out of Vrikodra's ears and other senses with smoke and sparks and flames. And his face became terrible to behold in consequence of his furrowed brows like those of Yam himself at the time of the universal destruction. Then Yudhishthira forbade the mighty hero, embracing him with his arms and telling him, "Be not so. Stay in silence and peace." And having pacified the mighty armed one with eyes red in wrath, the king approached his uncle Dhritarashtra, with hands joined in entreaty. Thus ends the 72nd section in the Dutta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 73, Dutta Parva continued. Yudhishthira said, "O king, thou art our master. Command us as to what we shall do. O Bharata, we desire to remain always in obedience to thee." Dhritarashtra replied, "O Ajatasattu, blessed be thou. Go thou in peace and safety. Commanded by me, go, rule thy own kingdom with thy wealth. And, O child, take to heart this command of an old man, this wholesome advice that I give, and which is even a nutritive regimen. O Yudhishthira, O child, thou knowest the subtle path of morality. Possessed of great wisdom, thou art also humble, and thou waitest also upon the old. Where there is intelligence, there is forbearance. Therefore, O Bharata, follow thou counsels of peace. The axe falleth upon wood, not upon stone. Thou art open to advice, not to Yodhan. They are the best of men that remember not the acts of hostility of their foes, that behold only the merits, not the faults, of their enemies, and that never enter into hostilities themselves. They that are good remember only the good deeds of their foes and not the hostile acts their foes might have done unto them. The good, besides, do good unto others without expectation of any good in return. O Yudhishthira, it is only the worst of men that utter harsh words in quarreling, while they that are indifferent reply to such when spoken by others. But they that are good and wise never think of or recapitulate such harsh words, little caring whether these may or may not have been uttered by their foes. They that are good, having regard to the state of their own feelings, can understand the feelings of others, and therefore remember only the good deeds and not the acts of hostility of their foes. Thou hast acted even as good men of prepossessing countenance do, who transgress not the limits of virtue, wealth, pleasure and salvation. O child, remember not the harsh words of Duryodhana. Look at thy mother Gandhari and myself also, if thou desirest to remember only what is good. O Bharata, look at me, who am thy father unto you and am old and blind, and still alive. It was for seeing our friends and examining also the strength and weakness of my children, that I had, from motives of policy, suffered this match at dice to proceed, O king. Those amongst the Kurus that have thee for their ruler, and the intelligent Vidura conversant with every branch of learning for their counselor, have, indeed, nothing to grieve for. In thee is virtue, in Arjuna is patience, in Bhimsena is prowess, and the twins, those foremost of men, is pure reverence for superiors. Blessed be thou, O Ajatasattu. Return to Kandava Prastha, and let there be brotherly love between thee and thy cousins, let thy heart also be ever fixed on virtue. Vasampayana continued, that foremost of the Bharatas King Yudhishthira the Just, then thus addressed by his uncle, having gone through every ceremony of politeness, set out with his brothers for Kandava Prastha, and accompanied by Draupadi and ascending their cars which were all of the hue of the clouds, with cheerful hearts they all set out for that best of cities called Indraprasth. Thus ends the 73rd section in the Dyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 74, Anudyuta Parva continued. Janamejaya said, how did the sons of Dhritarashtra feel, when they came to know that the Pandavas had, with Dhritarashtra's leave, left Hastinapura with all their wealth and jewels? Vasampayana said, O king, learning that the Pandavas had been commanded by the wise Dhritarashtra to return to their capital, Dasasana went without loss of time unto his brother. And, O bull of the Bharata race, having arrived before Duryodhana with his counselors, the prince, afflicted with grief, began to say, Ye mighty warriors, that which we had won after so much trouble, the old man, our father, hath thrown away. Know ye that he hath made over the whole of that wealth to the foe. At these words, Duryodhana and Karna and Sakuni, the son of Suvala, all of whom were guided by vanity, united together, and desirous of counteracting the sons of Pandu, approaching in haste saw privately the wise king Dhritarashtra the son of Vichitravirya and spake unto him these pleasing and artful words. Duryodhana said, Hast thou not heard, O king, what the learned Vrihaspati the preceptor of the celestials, said in course of counseling Sakra about mortals and politics? Even these, O slayer of foes, were the words of Vrihaspati, those enemies that always do wrong by stratagem or force, should be slain by every means. If, therefore, with the wealth of the Pandavas, We gratify the kings of the earth and then fight with the sons of Pandu. What reverses can overtake us? When one hath placed on the neck and back of venomous snakes full of wrath for encompassing his destruction, is it possible for him to take them off? Equipped with weapon and seated on their cars, the angry sons of Pandu, like wrathful and venomous snakes, will assuredly annihilate us, O father. Even now Arjuna proceedeth, encased in mail and furnished with his couple of quivers, frequently taking up the Gandiva and breathing hard and casting angry glances around. It hath also been heard by us that Vrikodra, hastily ordering his car to be made ready and riding on it, is proceeding along, frequently whirling his heavy make. Nakula also is going along, with the sword in his grasp and the semicircular shield in his hand, and Sahdeva and the king Yudhishthira have made signs clearly testifying to their intentions. Having ascended their cars that are full of all kinds of arms, they are whipping their horses for going to Kandava soon and assembling their forces. Persecuted thus by us, they are incapable of forgiving us those injuries. Who is there among them that will forgive that insult to Draupadi? Blessed be thou. We will again gamble with the son of Pandu for sending them to exile. O bull among men, we are competent to bring them thus under our sway, dressed in skins. Either we or they, defeated at dice, shall repair to the woods for 12 years. The 13th year shall have to be spent in some inhabited country, unrecognized, and, if recognized, an exile for another 12 years shall be the consequence. Either we or they shall live so. Let the play begin. Casting the dice, let the sons of Pandu once more play. O bull of the Bharata race, O king, even this is our highest duty. This Sakuni knoweth well the whole science of dice. Even if they succeed in observing this vow for 13 years, we shall be in the meantime firmly rooted in the kingdom and making alliances, assemble a vast invincible host and keep them content, so that we shall, O king, defeat the sons of Pandu if they reappear. Let this plan recommend itself to thee, O slayer of foes. Dhritarashtra said, bring back the Pandavas then, indeed, even if they have gone a great way. Let them come at once again to cast dice. Vasampayana continued, then Drona, Somadeta and Valhika, Gautama, Vidura, the son of Drona, and the mighty son of Dhritarashtra by his Vaisya wife, Burisravas, and Bhishma, and that mighty warrior Vikarm, all said, let not the play commence. Let there be peace. But Dhritarashtra, partial to his sons, disregarding the counsels of all his wise friends and relatives, summoned the sons of Pandu. Thus ends the 74th section in the Anudyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 75, Anudyuta Parva continued. Vasampayana said, O monarch, it was then that the virtuous Gandhari, afflicted with grief on account of her affection for her sons, addressed King Dhritarashtra and said, when Duryodhana was born, Vidura of great intelligence had said, it is well to send this disgrace of the race to the other world. He cried repeatedly and dissonantly like a jackal. It is certain he will prove the destruction of our race. Take this to heart, O king of the Kurus. O Bharata, sink not, for thy own fault, into an ocean of calamity. O Lord, accord not thy approbation to the counsels of the wicked ones of immature years. Be not thou the cause of the terrible destruction of this race. Who is there that will break an embankment which hath been completed, or rekindle a conflagration which hath been extinguished? O bull of the Bharata race, who is there that will provoke the peaceful sons of Pritha? Thou rememberest, O Ajamida, everything, but still I will call thy attention to this. The scriptures can never control the wicked-minded for good or evil. And, O king, a person of immature understanding will never act as one of mature years. Let thy sons follow thee as their leader. Let them not be separated from thee forever by losing their lives. Therefore, at my word, O king, abandon this wretch of our race. Thou couldst not, O king, from parental affection, do it before. Know that the time hath come for the destruction of race through him. Not, O king. Let thy mind, guided by counsels of peace, virtue, and true policy, be what it naturally is. That prosperity which is acquired by the aid of wicked acts, is soon destroyed, while that which is won by mild means taketh root and descendeth from generation to generation. The king, thus addressed by Gandhari, who pointed out to him in such language the path of virtue, replied unto her, saying, If the destruction of our race is come, let it take place freely. I am ill able to prevent it. Let it be as they, these my sons, desire. Let the Pandavas return. And let my sons again gamble with the sons of Pandu. Thus ends the 75th section in the Anudyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 76, Anudyuta Parva continued. Vasampayana said, the royal messenger, agreeably to the commands of the intelligent king Dhritarashtra, coming upon Yudhishthira, the son of Pritha, who had by that time gone a great way, addressed the monarch and said, Even these are the words of thy father-like uncle, O Bharata, spoken unto thee. The assembly is ready. O son of Pandu, O king Yudhishthira, come and cast the dice. Yudhishthira said, Creatures obtain fruits good and ill according to the dispensation of the ordainer of the creation. Those fruits are inevitable whether I play or not. This is a summons to dice, it is, besides the command of the old king. Although I know that it will prove destructive to me, yet I cannot refuse. Vasampayana continued, although a living animal made of gold was an impossibility, yet Rama suffered himself to be tempted by a golden deer. Indeed, the minds of men over whom calamities hang, became deranged and out of order. Yudhishthira, therefore, having said these words, retraced his steps along with his brothers. And knowing full well the deception practiced by Sakuni, the son of Pritha came back to sit at dice with him again. These mighty warriors again entered that assembly, afflicting the hearts of all their friends. And compelled by fate they once more sat down at ease for gambling for the destruction of themselves. Sakuni then said, The old king hath given ye back all your wealth. That is well. But, O bull of the Bharata race, listen to me, there is a stake of great value. Either defeated by ye at dice, dressed in deer skins, we shall enter the great forest and live there for 12 years, passing the whole of the 13th year in some inhabited region, unrecognized, and if recognized return to an exile of another 12 years, or vanquished by us, dressed in deer skins ye shall, with Krishna, live for 12 years in the woods, passing the whole of the 13th year unrecognized, in some inhabited region. If recognized, an exile of another 12 years is to be the consequence. On the expiry of the 13th year, each is to have his kingdom surrendered by the other. O Yudhishthira, with this resolution, play with us, O Bharata, casting the dice. At these words, they that were in that assembly, raising up their arms, said in great anxiety of mind, and from the strength of their feelings these words, Alas, fie on the friends of Duryodhan, that they do not apprise him of his great danger. Whether he, O bull among the Bharatas, Dhritarashtra, understand it or not, of his own sense, it is thy duty to tell him plainly. Vasampayana continued, King Yudhishthira, even hearing these various remarks, from shame and a sense of virtue again sat at dais. And though possessed of great intelligence and fully knowing the consequences, he again began to play, as if knowing that the destruction of the Kurus was at hand. And Yudhishthira said, How can, O Sakuni, a king like me, always observant of the uses of his own order, refuse when summoned to dais? Therefore I play with thee. Sakuni answered, We have many kin and horses, and milch cows and an infinite number of goats and sheep, and elephants and treasuries and gold and slaves both male and female. All these were staked by us before, but now let this be our one stake, viz., exile into the woods, being defeated either ye or we will dwell in the woods for 12 years, and the 13th year, unrecognized, in some inhabited place. Ye bulls among men, with this determination, will we play. O Bharata, this proposal about a stay in the woods was uttered but once. The son of Pritha, however, accepted it, and Sakuni took up the dice. And casting them he said unto Yudhishthira, Lo, I have won. Thus ends the 76th section in the Audiobook Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 77, Audiobook Parva continued. Vasampayana said, Then the vanquished sons of Pritha prepared for their exile into the woods. And they, one after another, in due order, casting off their royal robes, attired themselves in deerskins. And Dasasana, beholding those chastisers of foes, dressed in deerskins and deprived of their kingdom and ready to go into exile, exclaimed, The absolute sovereignty of the illustrious King Duryodhana hath commenced. The sons of Pandu have been vanquished, and plunged into great affliction. Now have we attained the goal either by broad or narrow paths. For today, becoming superior to our foes in point of prosperity as also of duration of rule, have we become praiseworthy of men. The sons of Pritha have all been plunged by us into everlasting hell. They have been deprived of happiness and kingdom for ever and ever. They who, proud of their wealth, laughed in derision at the son of Dhritarashtra, will now have to go into the woods, defeated and deprived by us of all their wealth. Let them now put off their variegated coats of mail, their resplendent robes of celestial make, and let them all attire themselves in deerskins according to the stake they had accepted of the son of Suvala. They who always used to boast that they had no equals in all the world, will now know and regard themselves in this their calamity as grains of sesame without the kernel. Although in this dress of theirs the Pandavas seem like unto wise and powerful persons installed in a sacrifice, yet they look like persons not entitled to perform sacrifices, wearing such a guise. The wise Yajnasena of the Somkar race, having bestowed his daughter the princess of Panchala on the sons of Pandu, acted most unfortunately, for the husbands of Yajnasni these sons of Pritha are as eunuchs. And O Yajnasni, what joy will be thine upon beholding in the woods these thy husbands dressed in skins and threadbare rags, deprived of their wealth and possessions? Elect thou a husband, whomsoever thou likest, from among all these present here. These Kurus assembled here, are all forbearing and self-controlled, and possessed of great wealth. Elect thou one amongst these as thy lord, so that this great calamity may not drag thee to wretchedness. The sons of Pandu now are even like grains of sesame without the kernel, or like show animals encased in skins, or like grains of rice without the kernel. Why shouldst thou then longer wait upon the fallen sons of Pandu? Vain is the labor used upon pressing the sesame grain devoid of the kernel. Thus did Dasasana, the son of Dhritarashtra, utter in the hearing of the Pandavas, harsh words of the most cruel import. And hearing them, the unforbearing Bhima in wrath suddenly approaching that prince like a Himalayan lion upon a jackal, loudly and chastisingly rebuked him in these words, "Wicked-minded villain, ravest thou so in words that are uttered alone by the sinful? Boastest thou thus in the midst of the kings, advanced as thou art by the skill of the king of Gandhara? As thou piercest our hearts here with these thy arrowy words, so shall I pierce thy heart in battle, recalling all this to thy mind. And they also who from anger or covetousness are walking behind thee as thy protectors, them also shall I send to the abode of Yam with their descendants and relatives." Vasampayana continued, "Unto Bhima dressed in deerskins and uttering these words of wrath without doing anything, for he could not deviate from the path of virtue, Dasasana abandoning all sense of shame, dancing around the Kurus, loudly said, 'O cow! O cow!' Bhima at this once more said, 'Rich darest thou, O Dasasana, use harsh words as these? Whom doth it behove to boast, thus having won wealth by foul means? I tell thee that if Vrikodra, the son of Pritha, drinketh not thy lifeblood, piercing open thy breast in battle, let him not attain to regions of blessedness. I tell thee truly that by slaying the sons of Dhritarashtra in battle, before the very eyes of all the warriors, I shall pacify this wrath of mine soon enough." Vasampayana continued, "And as the Pandavas were going away from the assembly, the wicked king Duryodhana from excess of joy mimicked by his own steps the playful leonine trade of Bhima. Then Vrikodra, half turning towards the king said, 'Think not ye fool that by this thou gainest any ascendancy over me. Slay thee shall I soon with all thy followers, and answer thee, recalling all this to thy mind.' And beholding this insult offered to him, the mighty and proud Bhima, suppressing his rising rage and following the steps of Yudhishthira, also spake these words while going out of the Kaurava court, 'I will slay Duryodhana, and Dhananjaya will slay Karna, and Sahdeva will slay Sakuni that gambler with dice. I also repeat in this assembly these proud words which the gods will assuredly make good, if ever we engage in battle with the Kurus. I will slay this wretched Duryodhana in battle with my make, and prostrating him on the ground I will place my foot on his head. And as regards this other wicked person Dasasana who is audacious in speech, I will drink his blood like a lion." And Arjuna said, "O Bhima, the resolutions of superior men are not known in words only. On the 14th year from this day, they shall see what happeneth." And Bhima again said, "The earth shall drink the blood of Duryodhana, and Karna, and the wicked Sakuni, and Dasasana that maketh the fourth." And Arjuna said, "O Bhima, I will, as thou directest, slay in battle this Karna so malicious and jealous and harsh-speeched and vain." For doing what is agreeable to Bhima, Arjuna vowed that he will slay in battle with his arrows this Karna with all his followers. "And I will send unto the regions of Yam also all those other kings that will from foolishness fight against me. The mountains of Himamvat might be removed from where they are, the maker of the day lose his brightness, the moon his coldness, but this vow of mine will ever be cherished. And all this shall assuredly happen if on the 14th year from this, Duryodhana doth not, with proper respect, return us our kingdom." Vasampayana continued, after Arjuna had said this, Satdeva the handsome son of Madri, endued with great energy, desirous of slaying Sakuni, waving his mighty arms and sighing like a snake, exclaimed, with eyes red with anger, "Thou disgrace of the Gandhara kings, those whom thou thinkest as defeated are not really so. Those are even sharp-pointed arrows from whose wounds thou hast run the risk in battle. I shall certainly accomplish all which Bhima hath said, adverting to thee with all thy followers. If therefore thou hast anything to do, do it before that day cometh. I shall assuredly slay thee in battle with all thy followers soon enough, if thou, O son of Suvala, stayest in the fight pursuant to the Kshatriya usage." Then, O monarch, hearing these words of Sahdeva, Nakula the handsomest of men spake these words, "I shall certainly send unto the abode of Yam all those wicked sons of Dhritarashtra, who desirous of death and impelled by fate, and moved also by the wish of doing what is agreeable to Duryodhan, have used harsh and insulting speeches towards this daughter of Yajnasena at the gambling match. Soon enough shall I, at the command of Yudhishthira and remembering the wrongs to Draupadi, make the earth destitute of the sons of Dhritarashtra." Vasampayana continued, "And those tigers among men, all endued with long arms, having thus pledged themselves to virtuous promises, approached King Dhritarashtra." Thus ends the 77th section in the Anudyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 78, Anudyuta Parva continued. Yudhishthira said, "I bid farewell unto all the Bharatas, unto my old grandsire, Bhishma, King Somadeta, the great king, Vahlika, Drona, Kripa, all the other kings, Aswathaman, Vidura, Dhritarashtra, all the sons of Dhritarashtra, Yayutsu, Sanjay, and all the courtiers. I bid farewell, all of ye, and returning again I shall see you." Vasampayana continued, overcome with shame none of those that were present there could tell Yudhishthira anything. Within their hearts, however, they prayed for the welfare of that intelligent prince. Vidura then said, "The Reverend Pritha is a princess by birth. It behoveth her not to go into the woods. Delicate and old and ever know to happiness the blessed one will live, respected by me, in my abode. Know this, ye sons of Pandu. And let safety be always yours." Vasampayana continued, "The Pandavas thereupon said, O sinless one, let it be as thou sayest. Thou art our uncle, and, therefore like as our father. We also are all obedient to thee. Thou art, O learned one, our most respected superior. We should always obey what thou choosest to command. And, O high-souled one, order thou whatever else there is that remaineth to be done." Vidura replied, "O Yudhishthira, O bull of the Bharata race, know this to be my opinion, that one that is vanquished by sinful means need not be pained by such defeat. Thou knowest every rule of morality. Dhananjaya is ever victorious in battle, Bhimsena is the slayer of foes, Nakula is the gatherer of wealth, Satyadeva hath administrative talents, Dharmya is the foremost of all conversant with the Vedas, and the well-behaved Draupadi is conversant with virtue and economy. Ye are attached to one another and feel delight at one another's sight, and enemies cannot separate you from one another, and ye are contented. Therefore, who is there that will not envy ye? O Bharata, this patient abstraction from the possession of the world will be of great benefit to thee. No foe, even if he were equal to Sakra himself, will be able to stand it. Formerly thou wert instructed on the mountains of Himamvat by Meru Savarni, in the town of Varnavata by Krishna-Dwaipayana, on the cliff of Bhrigu by Rama, and on the banks of the Drishadvati by Sambhu himself. Thou hast also listened to the instruction of the great Rishi Asita on the hills of Anjana, and thou becamest a disciple of Bhrigu on the banks of the Kalmashi. Narada and this thy priest Dvaimya will now become thy instructors. In the matter of the next world, abandon not these excellent lessons thou hast obtained from the rishis. O son of Pandu, thou surpassest in intelligence even Pururavas, the son of Ila, in strength, all other monarchs, and in virtue, even the rishis. Therefore, resolve thou earnestly to win victory, which belonged to Indra, to control thy wrath, which belongeth to Yam, to give in charity, which belongeth to Kuvara, and to control all passions, which belongeth to Varuna. And, O Bharata, obtain thou the power of gladdening from the moon, the power of sustaining all from water, forbearance from the earth, energy from the entire solar disk, strength from the winds, and affluence from the other elements. Welfare and immunity from ailment be thine, I hope to see thee return. And, O Yudhishthira, act properly and duly in all seasons, in those of distress, in those of difficulty, indeed, in respect of everything, O son of Kunti, with our leave go hence. O Bharata, blessing be thine. No one can say that ye have done anything sinful before. We hope to see thee, therefore, return in safety and crowned with success. Vasampayana continued, thus addressed by Vidura, Yudhishthira the son of Pandu of prowess, incapable of being baffled, saying, so be it, and bowing low unto Bhishma and Drona, went away. Thus ends the 78th section in the Anudyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 79, Anudyuta Parva continued. Vasampayana said, then when Draupadi was about to set out, she went unto the illustrious Pritha and solicited her leave. And she also asked leave of the other ladies of the household who had all been plunged into grief. And saluting and embracing every one of them as each deserved, she desired to go away. Then there arose within the inner apartments of the Pandavas a loud wail of woe. And Kunti, terribly afflicted upon beholding Draupadi on the eve of her journey, uttered these words in a voice choked with grief, O child, grieve not that this great calamity hath overtaken thee. Thou art well conversant with the duties of the female sex, and thy behavior and conduct also are as they should be. It behoveth me not, O thou of sweet smiles, to instruct thee as to thy duties towards thy lords. Thou art just and accomplished, and thy qualities have adorned the race of thy birth, as also the race into which thou hast been admitted by marriage. Fortunate are the Kauravas that they have not been burnt by thy wrath. O child, safely go thou blessed by my prayers. Good women never suffer their hearts to the unstung at what is inevitable. Protected by virtue that is superior to everything, soon shalt thou obtain good fortune, while living in the woods. Keep thy eye on my child Sahdeva. See that his heart sinketh not under this great calamity. Saying so be it, the princess Draupadi bathed in tears, and clad in one piece of cloth, stained with blood, and with hair dishevelled left her mother-in-law. And as she went away weeping and wailing, Pritha herself in grief followed her. She had not gone far when she saw her sons shorn of their ornaments and robes, their bodies clad in deerskins, and their heads down with shame. And she beheld them surrounded by rejoicing foes and pitied by friends. Endued with excess of parental affection, Kunti approached her sons. In that state, and embracing them all, and in accents choked by woe, she said these words, Ye are virtuous and good-mannered, and adorned with all excellent qualities and respectful behavior. Ye are all high-minded, and engaged in the service of your superiors. And ye are also devoted to the gods and the performance of sacrifices. Why, then, hath this calamity overtaken you? Whence is this reverse of fortune? I do not see by whose wickedness this sin hath overtaken you. Alas, I have brought you forth. All this must be due to my ill fortune. It is for this that ye have been overtaken by this calamity, though ye all are endued with excellent virtues. In energy and prowess and strength and firmness and might, ye are not wanting. How shall ye now, losing your wealth and possessions, live poor in the pathless woods? If I had known before that ye were destined to live in the woods, I would not have on Pandu's death come from the mountains of Satsaringa to Hastinapura. Fortunate was your father, as I now regard, for he truly reaped the fruit of his asceticism, and he was gifted with foresight, as he entertained the wish of ascending heaven, without having to feel any pain on account of his sons. Fortunate also was the virtuous Madri, as I regard her today, who had, it seems, a foreknowledge of what would happen and who on that account, obtained the high path of emancipation and every blessing therewith. Madri looked upon me as her stay, and her mind and her affections were ever fixed on me. Oh, fie on my desire of life, owing to which I suffer all this woe. Ye children, ye are all excellent and dear unto me. I have obtained you after much suffering. I cannot leave you. Even I will go with you. Alas, O Krishna, why dost thou leave me so? Everything endued with life is sure to perish. Hath Dhata, Brahma, himself forgotten to ordain my death? Perhaps it is so, and therefore life doth not quit me. O Krishna, O thou who dwellest in Dwarka, O younger brother of Sankarsana, where art thou? Why dost thou not deliver me and these best of men also from such woe? They say that thou who art without beginning and without end deliverest those that think of thee. Why doth this saying become untrue? These my sons are ever attached to virtue and nobility and good fame and prowess. They deserve not to suffer affliction. Oh, show them mercy. Alas, when there are such elders amongst our race as Bhishma and Drona and Kripa, all conversant with morality and the science of worldly concerns, how could such calamity at all come? O Pandu, O king, where art thou? Why sufferest thou quietly thy good children to be thus sent into exile, defeated at dice? O Sahdeva, desist from going. Thou art my dearest child, dearer, O son of Madri, than my body itself. Forsake me not. It behoveth thee to have some kindness for me. Bound by the ties of virtue, let these thy brothers go. But then, earn thou that virtue which springeth from waiting upon me. Vasampayana continued. The Pandavas then consoled their weeping mother and with hearts plunged in grief set out for the woods. And Vidura himself also much afflicted, consoling the distressed Kunti with reasons, and led her slowly to his house. And the ladies of Dhritarashtra's house, hearing everything as it happened, viz. The exile of the Pandavas and the dragging of Krishna into the assembly where the princess had gambled, loudly wept censuring the Kauravas. And the ladies of the royal household also sat silent for a long time, covering their lotus-like faces with their fair hands. And King Dhritarashtra, also thinking of the dangers that threatened his sons, became a prey to anxiety and could not enjoy peace of mind. And anxiously meditating on everything, and with mind deprived of its equanimity through grief, he sent a messenger unto Vidura, saying, Let Kshatta come to me without a moment's delay. At this summons, Vidura quickly came to Dhritarashtra's palace. And as soon as he came, the monarch asked him with great anxiety how the Pandavas had left Hastinapura. Thus ends the 79th section in the Anudyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.